I'd just like to begin welcoming you back, Minister, and by acknowledging your tenacity, your commitment, your perseverance to get what you consider to be the best possible bill at this stage for our adult transgender community. As Broden Giambroni, Director of TENI, wrote to me in an email yesterday, after all this time, Lydia's 22-year journey has finally come to an end. Welcome, Lydia. So I want to begin by acknowledging again Dr. Foy's courage and staying power, the work of Mr. Michael Farrell and FLAC to support her, and TENI, belong to TransParentCI, and other advocates and self-advocates whose engagement with us, parliamentarians, Social Protection Committee Chair Joanna Tuffy, Minister Humphrey, and of course the Taoiseach Joan Burton. We welcome you all here today. It's fantastic to have you here with us, but particularly I suppose in terms of just to acknowledge the presence of Minister Taoiseach Joan Burton and her words to us. She was not willing to draft a bill on the basis of the prime recommendations of the CRAG Working Group, which reported soon after she took up the Ministry of Social Protection. But instead, as she's just said, she began a long consultation process with the sector and its academic, legal, and lawmaker advocates to get a bill that she hoped would be human rights compliant and progressive, and of course with support of her officials who are here with us today. In my view, the bill before us in its final form before being enacted has traveled a very long journey as well that Taoiseach and Minister Humphreys have referred to, picking up some significant progressive elements along the way, and I want to acknowledge this. And I'll come back to that in other comments. But the government, however, I also want to say, has resisted incorporating other elements, particularly with regard to young people, that will place the Act out of step with where the people are, in this case, our treasured young people and their parents. The other arena in gender recognition law which we have not engaged with is the restriction of the definition of preferred gender to male or female, the exclusion of a third non-binary category for those who do not or cannot identify as one of the binary genders, male or female. So, although it is a great day, I think, for the transgender community in Ireland, and we're all acknowledging that, we still have not embraced the full reality of the lives of transgender people, and this is what lawmakers should do. It's hugely regrettable, and I will continue to advocate on their behalf long after this bill becomes law. But the first group of amendments provides for self-declaration by transgender people, and that's coming to Group 1, and that is a remarkable achievement of the legislation. In 2013, as the Minister is aware, I published a gender recognition bill with the expert support of the TENI Legal Working Group, of whom Dr. Fergus Ryan made a significant contribution, and sort of supported by draftsmanship from members of the Public Interest Litigation Alliance of FLAC. And that bill provided for a self-declaration model, and we considered it to be a benchmark bill for the government, as it was published prior to the government's heads of bill. As we know, this model was not accepted in the government's bill originally, and indeed, when the bill left the Senate on the 17th of February 2015, the government even resisted that a person's GP could be added to the definition of primary treating physician for the purposes of certifying an individual's gender recognition. So when the bill was last with us in the Shannon, it was a far distance from self-declaration. And even though on that day I produced in the Shannon a letter from the Irish College of General Practitioners supporting my amendment to include GPs in the list of primary treating medical practitioner, the government still refused on the basis that more consultation needed to take place with representative organizations of GPs. So, with the help of Dr. Philip Crowley, an incredible ally and friend of the trans community, before the bill started in the Dáil, I was also sent a copy of a letter written to the Taoiseach by the Irish Medical Organization that they too recommended the inclusion of GPs as medical practitioners who could support the certification process of trans people. As we all recall then, the bill went through second stage in the Dáil in early March and then paused for committee and final stages in the Dáil to happen after the marriage equality referendum. And that's where, Minister, you brought, just really, again, the extraordinary, I think, movement on behalf of the government for the people, the self-declaratory model. So the government, I think, has reached the summit of best international practice in this regard, and it's a fine achievement. I want to welcome particularly that the wording now used in the government's bill also closely matches that used in the template statutory declaration that I had in my bill, which spoke of the person's, and I quote, settled and solemn intention formed after careful consideration to live permanently as a person of the preferred gender. I understand from information provided by the Department of Social Protection that the bill, once enacted, will come into operation by the end of the summer. So may I note that the template statutory declaration contained in my bill might be useful to the government and the department at this stage to use the template and to adapt it as they see fit.